Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. We are waiting for others to join in. Please be patient. We'll start shortly. Meanwhile, all attendees, please note, video and audio has been disabled for all attendees. If you get disconnected from the meeting due to any technical glitch or network issues, you can rejoin the meeting using the same link. In case of any query, kindly address it in the chat box. Please maintain decorum at all times during the meeting. Please be patient. We'll be starting shortly. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to one and all present here. Our speakers for today are Mr. Akash Rugan and Mr. Dhruv Gupta. Mr. Akash Rugani is a co-founder at FinStart Academy and has a decade of experience in training and consulting in risk management and analytics. Sir has pursued multiple professional courses like ACA, FRM, and valuation, etc. Mr. Dhruv is a tutor of CM2 at FinStart Academy. He has cleared CT series comprising 9 actuarial papers in his first attempt and simultaneously with his bachelor's while securing third rank in the junior college. Recently, he cleared one more actuarial paper. Without further ado, we would request our speakers to begin with today's session.
Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, sir. Great. Thanks, Pratham, for the introduction. So welcome everyone. Today we will be having, as you guys are very much aware, a small session where we will be discussing the actuarial course as such with you. As far as possible, we have made it interactive so that everyone can participate and we can have a strong discussion. Okay. So there will be some intermediate questions. There will be some polls that we have organized. Request everyone to participate on it, and hopefully we'll be able to clear a lot of doubts. I'll just quickly share my screen.
I just want to say one small thing before we begin. I'm sure you guys can hear me. I'm audible.
Yeah, go ahead, Dhruv.
Can you hear me? Yes. Anand, I just want to say how much I actually relate to the audience here. Like I relate to you guys a lot because just like you are attending a seminar hosted by FinStat today, I too attended a seminar hosted by FinStat several years back in Mumbai. The only difference was that was a physical seminar, but this thing is an online one. So just like you guys have a lot of questions in your head regarding actuarial science, like course hai hi kya, how much time does it take, where do actuaries work, stuff like that. I too had the exact same questions in my head, all of which got cleared in that seminar. So when I see you guys here, I am quite reminded of myself. And that is why when Akasa told me that we are hosting a talk at St. David's, I couldn't really wait to get on board with it. Like, शायद ही Monday के लिए कभी इतना wait किया है. So I think let's begin, and hopefully all your queries will be satisfied. You can take over, Akash, sir.
Great. So I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
All right. So as Dhruv highlighted, we will be introducing everyone to the world of actuarial science. Okay. So the first thing is, who's an actuary? Okay. So ideally, actuaries are futuristic professionals. Okay. So I have done a small comparison since I come from the domain of accountancy as well. So an accountant is someone who basically values the present or digs into the past. An actuary is someone who tries to value the future. Now, this definition has been given by the Society of Actuaries USA, okay, or the US Society of Actuaries, but it is very, very apt explanation as what an actuary is. He's trying to value the future, and accordingly let you know what you should keep currently in order to, let's say, avoid any future scenarios or any future problems. Okay. To collate that, what we have done is we have done where all this statement holds true. Okay, so broadly the areas where actuaries work is what we have highlighted, and I'll quickly uh, discuss all the areas. So let's say let's start with general insurance. Okay, I hope everyone here knows what is motor insurance or car insurance. Okay. Now, I'll ask a quick question and you can just put up on the chat box. Do you think, and this is a very big stereotype, do you think that women are rash drivers?
I definitely sort of buy a little into that stereotype, I guess. My mom is a prime example for me. So,
Yeah, anyone here thinks women are rash drivers or typically women driving? Oh no, so we have the first strong one coming out from a person. Great, anyone else? Because that's a typical stereotype.
we are not really talking about rash driving, we are talking about the stereotype in general that we have sort of developed in India here. So, yep.
Anyone else apart from Shruti? Okay, so broadly, there is a big stereotype that is there in the market that let's say women are not good drivers. I think they typically have issues here, which is prevalent in India at least. But if you see anecdotal evidence in India, the premiums are not distinguished based on gender, but in the US, the premiums are distinguished based on gender, and accordingly, the premium of female drivers is far less than male drivers. Okay, it's at least 10 to 20% cheaper than. So if you're a female, if you have a car, the premium is far less. So how does this come? So this comes through data. This typically is based on the accidents that happen and the actuaries that work and work out such data. Okay. So ideally these are some stereotypes. So ideally, अगर कोई कल उठ के बोले that females are not good drivers, please tell them that at least in the US it is not the case. Female premiums are far lower, and they enjoy a better premium because data suggests that the accident loss due to female driving is far less. Same way, we go ahead to another area of application. Just a sec. We go ahead with another area of application is life insurance. Now, in life insurance, typically, if you see, everyone here knows that premiums are paid every year, and a claim is paid only on, let's say, a death of an individual or expiry of a very long term. So, ideally, upfront, there is an immediate amount that comes. Okay, upfront, there is an immediate amount that comes. Okay, so let's say premium आया 100 rupees, उसके against there might be always expenses. Let's say that expenses around 30 to 40 rupees. The amount left is 70. Ideally, if you talk in terms of cash flows, the life insurance companies has 70 rupees of earning. But ideally, ये earning नहीं गिना जाता. Why? Because this money has to be kept aside for future claims. How much should be kept aside? Should it be 50? Should it be 60? Should it be 70? Should it be more than 70? Is something which is decided by an actuary. How much is the amount that typically should be kept aside as a reserve is decided by an actuary. Based on that, premiums are determined. So we discussed two areas of application which are typically in the insurance domain. Let's get into another domain, which is, let's say, investment and finance. In the financial domain, let's say if I talk about banks, okay, so now banking companies give loans, okay, and then there may be defaults on loan, okay, in which case banking companies suffer a loss. There are specific dedicated risk analytics who are called as credit risk analytics, who basically decide based on data, what can be the future loss due to credit events. Okay, यहाँ पे सब लोग अलग अलग टाइप के लोन लेते हैं, कार लोन, होम लोन, पर्सनल लोन. Now there is a portfolio of lot of such loans. How much is the amount? Because कुछ तो डिफॉल्ट होगा, ऐसा तो नहीं होगा कि 100 के 100 जन हर टाइम सारा पैसा दे देंगे. There will not be a 100% recovery. There will be some default, but what is that default? And accordingly, what amount should be kept aside in order that in event that default occurs, you can cover up that loss, is determined by actuaries. Okay. Investments. Again, I go back to the insurance example. Ye 70 rupees ka cash flows has to be invested as well, because it has to be invested in such a way that basically you earn on it. In fact, life and general insurance companies or health insurance companies are the biggest investment vehicles. Okay, they invest massively and try to earn massive amounts of money. Does anybody here know an individual who formed an insurance company and made massive amounts of money through insurance money, basically through insurance premium investing? Anyone knows the name of that person? He's one of the richest guys in the world. Anyone can help me with that name of the person?
You guys can type it out in the chat box, huh?
Anyone?
Not following the news, I guess.
Great. So the individual who did that was Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett has the largest number. So Berkshire Hathaway has one of the largest investment books, because it's an it's an insurance company. It takes in premium, invests that money across various areas, and has made massive profits through that entire work. Now within that, you have a lot of individuals who are actuaries who decide how and where to invest such amounts. The last two areas, which are gaming and pensions. Gaming as an area is where there is a recent traction that has developed over a period of time, because gaming jaise areas mein there are a lot of statistical games. Okay, there are a lot of statistical games that typically go through. Poker is a very good example of such games. Okay, so when you are developing such statistical games, you require people who can understand the entire mechanics of the mechanics of statistics behind it, and ideally try to win from it and to design it. Pensions is something, guys, relates back to life insurance. Broadly, you pay an amount right now so that in future, if you survive over a period, you have a risk-free income that starts flowing across. The work of an actuary in event of a pensions is absolutely the same. It decides what should be the premium that should be charged and what should be the amount that needs to be kept aside, so that in future when pensions have to be paid, the insurance company does not have a problem. Okay, so all of these areas are the work areas of an actuary. So broadly, if I have to give you a very, very simple idea, actuaries are basically I'll just change the color. Okay, actuaries are basically working in what is abbreviated as BFSI. Stands for banking, financial services, and insurance. They are basically the statisticians of this domain, or the mathematics guys of this domain. They work exhaustively in the banking services, financial services, and insurance domain. Okay, and they basically do all the quantitative work or the mathematical work that is required in this domain.
Right. I think I like to add one small one regarding that investment thing. So typically, let's say if I take your example only. So I'm assuming you guys are around, I guess, 20 years old. So if you go ahead and buy an insurance policy now, on an average, the insurance company has to give a payout after many years. Like on an average, if the lifespan is around 60, 70 years, that's a liability that comes after almost 40 years. So जो भी तुम लोग से प्रीमियम मिलेगा इंश्योरेंस कंपनी को, that is not going to sit on it for 40 years. Inflation तो इसका वर्थ जीरो हो जाएगा. So they will actually have to invest it in different areas. and they do not have to invest it for only for 1 or 2 years. They actually have to invest it for a very long span. So that involves making predictions of different assets over a very long period of time, and as a result, a lot of complexity comes into the picture. Like making predictions over the 1 or 2 years, that's I guess fairly easy, but as the time horizon becomes longer and longer, the complexity keeps on increasing. So that is one very interesting avenue where actuaries work. And one more thing that comes in the picture here is also regulations. So as an insurance company, I do not want to invest my money in very safe assets like बैंक में जाके account खोल के पैसा डाल देंगे सारे premium का. So that is going to give me a very, I guess, only 5-6% return. That's very low for me. But on the other end, I can't invest my money in, let's say, penny stocks also, because that is very risky, and the regulator will come and tell me that no, boss, that's not possible for you. You are just playing around with money now. So you need to basically strike a balance. It shouldn't be too safe, but it shouldn't be too risky. So striking a balance and getting the most return out of it, that is also a very fun thing in investment where actually is working. So yeah, those were a few, I guess, additional examples.
Great. Thanks, Dhruv, for the add-on. We go ahead. So now we have a small poll. Since we have been saying, do you know personally an actuary? So does anyone here, and Pratham, if you could share the poll on, does anyone here know an actuary within your circle?
And when I say no, when sir says no, I think he means have you actually talked to an actuary, like in person, maybe over call, maybe even over text. But have you actually conversed with an actuary? I think we'll give a little bit more time. How many people are voting? Can we see that?
Yeah, 9 people have, so more responses are coming in.
Okay, we'll wait.
Correct. हाँ, और ये question अगर होता, do you know a chartered accountant? I think everyone would be having someone or the other in their circle who's done a CA. So basically, okay, so I don't see a single yes till now. So broadly, no one in the attendees or basically know an actuary or they've spoken to an actuary. So this becomes like, अरे ये तो कैसा होगा, क्या होगा, पता नहीं, because typically whenever you go to a career advice and you go to your family only and family बोल देती है, अरे तेरे काका ने ये किया, engineer किया है, इससे बात कर ले, इधर काम कर रहा है, he's a CA, he's an X, he's a Y. So you typically go to such persons and you discuss. Though there are very few people, and we will come to that details, but it is not that it is not completely I mean, it's unknown as a career option. Okay, so if I talk about this, so I hope everyone knows him. He is one of the richest man or the richest guys in the world. Okay, Elon Musk came up with a very strong recommendation for the profession as such. So he has great respect for the actuarial profession, and he came across them as great mathematicians. He came up with a very beautiful problem actually. So everyone knows Tesla has autonomous cars. He came up with a very good question. So let's say there is an autonomous car. Okay, let's say there is a car which is driven on an autopilot mode and it meets an accident. Now, typically, first question is who will bear the loss? Should it be the company which made the car, or second, who's the individual? Because individual bolega, boss, I was not driving only. It is an autonomous car. It is running on an autopilot mode. The software malfunctioned. Okay, and there have been multiple videos. If you just go ahead and see the Tesla functioning, having a problem. Okay. Second thing, he came up with that his car collects a lot of information about the driver. Okay, because it runs on an autonomous mode, there is one very lesser chance of rash driving, and second, it collects a lot of data. So ideally, he said that the premiums that are being charged currently in the US need to fall at least by 40 to 50%. But this was his hunch. He needed actuaries in order to vet it using data and try to give him that boss what he's thinking is correct. That whatever data is garnered can be used. Even so, more so, this entire internet thing is also prevalent in India. in India, in the last 2-3 years, MG Hector came up with the Internet Inside concept. Okay, so typically all car insurance companies have a cover for your interior of the car. Okay, if there is any theft of interior of the car, MG Hector came up with Internet Inside, and you could not steal it. Okay, so the insurance companies reduced the premiums drastically because they felt that if something cannot be stolen directly, it will not have any problems. Okay, so all these technology upgradations typically need to be vetted by an actuary based on past data that they see, and accordingly they give impacts on the premiums that are there. So even though guys you haven't heard about actuaries, there are enough people on the entire domain that have been advocating it as a profession and trying to use the benefits of it. These were certain factoids that we have collated. It has been rated in the top 10 jobs in careercast.com in the US. So it's one of the best jobs rated by Wall Street journals for doing maths. It's listed in Forbes. In the Education Times also, there have been multiple multiple articles where it has been rated as one of the best careers. So broadly, the factoids have always been that if you like maths and you enjoy finance as an area of application, so you need to be good at maths and enjoy finance as an area of application, then actuaries is one of the best careers that you should look at. This is one more poll that we have, and I think again, if Pratham you can share it, how long do you think it takes to become an actuary?
Sure, sir.
How many people voted in the last poll?
51.
I think we should give them at least 10-15 seconds to wait on this.
Sure.
Take a guess, guys.
We have not got the poll yet. Okay.
Yes, it's there.
I think Pratham, you can reshare it. I think they are not able to see the poll. Okay. Done. We have start seeing responses. It takes 5 years. Okay. Pratham, you can just let us know when majority of them have voted in.
Sure, sir.
More than half, around half think 4 years. Okay. The distribution is quite skewed, I feel. I think we can reveal
yes,
the number.
Yeah, so most of them have voted.
Great. Okay. So here majority of the people think that it can be done within 4 to 5 years. Okay, so there have been some people who have said 5 years. So I'll say 4 to 6 years is, let's say, the major time horizon, which I think includes 52 plus 17. So almost 68 to 69% of the people, almost 70% of the people feel here that it can be done within 6 years. The average time ideally is around 8 to 10 years. Okay. This is the average time. You will find people who, or very few people who have done it within the 4 to 5 years or the 6 years horizon. Okay, the average time that is required is around 8 to 10 years for one to become an actuary. Okay, so yeah, it's quite a long journey. Okay, but that does not mean that you typically stop then and there. Okay, so typically what happens is, and I'll just write it behind only. Sorry, I just skipped the slide. Okay, so what typically happens is, though it takes around 8 to 10 years to become an actuary, it's not that you will start earning from there. Typically, as so the aim ideally is that while you graduate, you complete certain exams, and after that you start working. Okay, and then you complete the remaining exams along with work. ऐसा अप्रोच क्यों होता है? बिकॉज वन, यू स्टार्ट गेनिंग एक्सपीरियंस, टू, ये अलॉन्ग विथ वर्क देने में मजा अलग है, बिकॉज फॉर एवरी एग्जाम देर इज एन इंक्रीमेंट, देर इज अ बोनस. Typically in all companies, they have study policies and they give you an increment and a bonus if you clear those exams along with your work. Okay, so what typically the journey is, 3 साल के अंदर typically people complete half to 60% of the course. The remaining half or the remaining 40%, the 40 to 50% is done along with work, and वहां पे stretch आता है. Okay, so along with graduation 3 साल में let's say 50 to 60% हो गया. बाकी का 40 to 50% करने के लिए it typically takes 4 to 5 years. The reason is because along with work clear करना थोड़ा difficult होता है, but along with work करने के monetary benefits बहुत है. So there is motivation around it, but it takes time, because along with work it becomes very difficult to give time to studies. Okay, all those who are able to manage this piece, all those who are able to manage the work piece well, okay, if they are able to manage this piece, they can get done faster. The challenge in the program, guys, is this: a lot of people leave or cannot continue because along with work pressure manage nahi ho pata. If you can manage this well, you will be able to clear faster, and obviously the growth will also be fast. So what we have done is we have collated a small an idea typically for everyone as to what is the package that typically enjoy, and I want to highlight that it is tentative and we have done some broad surveys of our students based on that. Typically subjects passed, so as a fresher ideally this should be your target. This should be your target. Around 35 to 50K is the broad matrix that everyone should be looking at. Okay, after that, along with papers, as you clear, your growth keeps on coming. And there is, let's say, I can put numbers ahead this also. Let's say, so once you become a fellow, you have around 6 to 7 years of experience, then the package is very, very different. But that is a very strong journey. Okay, and there are a lot of people who get attracted to this career because they hear that it's a very, very handsomely paying job that you typically get. That is there, but it comes at later on in your course or later on in your career. So don't get attracted to it just because of the money aspect of it, because वो मतलब वो बहुत higher level पे है. Okay, वो बहुत हायर लेवल पे है और उसके लिए एफर्ट्स बहुत बहुत ज्यादा है. ओके, ग्रेट.
One small thing, but I think we must have scared them a little when it comes to the pressure it comes of giving exams while working. So it is definitely hard, as Akash has said, but again, one thing is that you will have increments very closely linked to your papers. So with every paper that you clear, you will get additional bonuses, additional increments on top of your yearly raises and everything. So that is one very big motivation factor. Second is that companies also want you to become actuaries. That is reflected in the fact that they have their bonuses linked to your papers, and also they have a very generous study leave policy. So on top of the normal leaves that you get, for every attempt, for every paper, they will give you several additional leaves just to study, which is not seen, I think, in any other profession. At least, they will keep on giving you leaves till the time you become a fellow, and that's going to take several years. So they have a very generous study leave policy just so that you can become an actuary. That's also there for some support, I guess. Yes, sir.
Great. So I think I've been talking a lot on what actuaries does. I'll hand it over to Dhruv now. He will enter into the various actuarial exams that are there, the structure. So we have spoken on that. So I think he'll take you through how the journey looks like.
Yes.
Over to you, Dhruv. I'll just stop sharing and you can start.
All right, so what Akash sir has covered is sort of the general idea of actuarial science, and I'm going to get into the specifics right now. So you must have heard that there are two institutes from which people tend to give their papers. Like broadly speaking, there are two institutes from which you can give your papers. So one of them is IAI. The full form is Institute of Actuaries of India. Don't worry, तुम लोग को full form याद नहीं रखना है. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is this is the Indian Institute. This thing is India Ka Institute. On the other hand, we have the IFOA. IFOA. Again, the full form is Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. बोल दिया मैंने full form. भूल जाओ, याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है. The only relevant thing to keep in mind is this is the UK का university. This is the UK Institute. So we have an Indian institute and we have an UK institute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first clarify some important differences between the two, how they differ from each other. And then we'll also look at some important similarities. कहाँ पर वो दोनों same है. So I'm going to start with the differences. One very important difference is the fact that IAI, the Indian Institute, has an entrance exam. यहाँ पर तुम लोग को entrance exam clear करना पड़ेगा, the name of which is ACET. So what this means is only after you clear this entrance, you will be able to move on to your actual papers. On the other hand, IFOA has no such entrance. IFOA does not have any entrance, so that basically means that you can directly start giving your actual papers from IFOA. पहला paper दो, clear हुआ तो second paper, third paper, and so on. Now, with regard to this point, I actually think what IFOA is doing is much better. I actually buy into IFOA ka structure here because, as we just covered, for two reasons actually. So one thing is that as Akash has just covered, it takes quite a lot of time to become an actuary, and so given that having an entrance exam is actually one extra hurdle to clear. So that is why that's one benefit of IFOA, that we do not have to clear that one extra hurdle. And secondly, ASET is actually an aptitude test. So when I say it's an aptitude test, I mean it covers stuff like data interpretation, logic, reasoning, your English skills. It does have math and stat in it, but it's not. It does not comprise more than 50%. So it is more of an aptitude test. So what I mean is, since it's an aptitude test, it does not really give you a sense of what actual science is. Matlab, actually, Rajesh is saying great learning, but I sort of disagree when it comes to ASET, because it just, in some sense, tests your aptitude. It does not really teach you anything about actual science. On the other hand, if you just start giving papers from IFOA, giving the first paper will give you a very real sense of what actual science is. So to summarize, I just mentioned two reasons. First is that having one less hurdle to clear is definitely good. And second is that I don't really like the ASET exam because it does not give you a sense of actual science. So due to this, I actually prefer IFOA structure. And I'm sure not having to give an entrance exam would be welcomed by most of you also. Okay? So that's one important difference. Second important difference is the cost structure. I think I should use a darker color. The cost structure of both the institutes. So definitely that's one important thing that everybody wants to know, कि भाई अच्छा कितना होगा. So whenever you register with an institute, first of all you'll have to pay an entrance fee. सबसे पहले you'll have to pay an entrance fee, and that is going to be a one-time thing, a one-time entrance fee. So for IAI, that one-time entrance fee is 7,000 rupees, and I have included the cost of ASET into this. That's your entrance fee plus ASET ka cost also. Okay. On the other hand, IFOA ka entrance fee is around 22,000 rupees. So as you can see, IFOA is slightly more expensive. Some might say much more expensive, but definitely IFOA is more expensive, and I think you would be expecting that. End of the day, foreign university hai, UK university hai. Actually, if you go to IFOA's website, and check out their fee structure, you will see that all the figures are expressed in pounds. So सब कुछ pounds में लिखा है. So definitely that makes stuff slightly more expensive. Okay. So that was the entrance fee. On top of that, you will also be paying an annual membership fee. There will be an annual membership fees, and as the name suggests, this is an annual thing. So हर साल भरना है. Entrance fee was one time, but this thing is an annual thing. And for IAI, that cost is around 2,000 rupees. Whereas for IFOA, it's around 7,500. Again, keep in mind, IFOA figure is not exact because we have to convert pounds into rupees. So that rate keeps on fluctuating. And finally, the most important cost, ये सब तो sort of time pass cost है. The most important cost is the paper cost. Like how much do you pay to actually give a paper from the institute? So finally, we have the paper cost. Now, giving a paper from IAI will set you back 12,000 rupees, whereas giving a paper from IFOA will set you back around 19,000 rupees. So one thing to keep in mind that this is not an exact figure. The paper cost is not exact because different papers have different costs. So some papers might be slightly more expensive, whereas some might be slightly cheaper, but on an average, that is what your cost will come out to be. Okay. So I think it's pretty evident that IFOA थोड़ा सा महंगा है as compared to IAI. But I feel that as far as education costs go, both the figures are pretty reasonable. Like लाखों में तो यहाँ पर ज़्यादा figure हमें दिख नहीं रही. Mostly they are in the thousands only. So as far as education costs go, I think it's a reasonable course to go ahead with. Okay. So the first difference was the entrance exam, and the second difference was the cost structure, and definitely IFO is slightly more expensive. One last important difference is the paper difficulty. So one last difference is the paper difficulty. So typically papers from IAI are slightly harder. IAI के papers थोड़े hard होते हैं. इंडिया में एजुकेशन वैसे ही काफी हाई लेवल पे चलता है. तो IAI के papers are slightly harder and more importantly are slightly less predictable. So you never know what you are going to be facing in an IAI paper. Actually, they have been known to ask stuff that is slightly outside the syllabus also. Like, of course, ज़्यादा marks कैसे नहीं पूछेंगे, but for 5-6 marks, they tend to ask sometimes stuff that is not really inside the scope. And as you might expect, to do stuff like this, इनका pass percentage थोड़ा कम होता है. IAI has a lower pass percentage. On the other hand, the opposite is true for IFOA. IFOA के लिए उल्टा true है. So the papers are relatively easier, and I'm saying relatively. Okay, so ऐसा मत सोचना कि अभी सर ने बोल दिया IFOA के पेपर easy है, क्लास आएंगे, टाइम पास करेंगे, पेपर हो जाएगा, done. Not like that. I'm talking in a relative sense. In an absolute sense, दोनों institutes से you will have to study, but relatively speaking, IFOA is slightly more manageable, more predictable. So they tend to have a higher pass percentage on average. So, okay, those were some important differences. I think I'll just give you a figure of the pass percentage also. I actually have given some exams from IAI, and not to sort of brag, just to tell you, but I have cleared papers where the pass percentage was as low as 3%. तो इसका pass percentage काफी गिरता है कम होने के लिए. It also goes up because it's a very unpredictable paper, so it can go up to 15-20% also, but it can go down to single digits, low single digits. On the other hand, IFOA has a much more stable and a much more, I think, reasonable pass percentage that tends to be around, I guess, 30-35%. And this is what the average of all students is, but at Finstat, I think our pass percentage is much more than this, so that's also a good thing.
Just one thing to add. The cost that II has, if you go back, yeah. That 12,000 includes study material fee.
Correct.
So II में you have to mandatorily buy the study material from the institute and the exam fee. IFOA में you simply pay the exam fee. Study material is something that is readily available. So if you go to the website and cross check it, there will be two components of fees. One is study material and the exam actual fee. Yeah.
Correct. So that is one reason why II का cost थोड़ा सा बढ़ भी जाता है, because you are forced to buy that study material. And without that material, if you were just supposed to pay the exam fee, it would be less. But since it's mandatory, I have included it over here. Good point, sir. Okay, so that was cool. I'll just these were some important differences with regards to the two institutes: the entrance exam, the cost, and the difficulty. So one sort of summarizing point here is that even though IFOA ka cost is more, even though IFOA costs slightly more, since the papers are slightly more manageable, people tend to give more from IFOA. Although the cost is slightly more, but paper थोड़े easy है ना, तो people tend to go ahead with IFOA. And if I take a guess, around I guess 90% of our FinStat students would be giving from IFOA only. 19 to at least 80% to give from IFOA, and only the remaining, I guess, around 10% go ahead with II. So that should tell you where students prefer to go. Okay. And I'm not trying to endorse one institute over the other. I'm just telling you the bare facts. Okay. Cool. So those were some important differences. Let's also look at some important similarities. So I'll also just quickly cover some basic similarities. So one important similarity is the syllabus, the curriculum. So when I say the syllabus, the curriculum, what I mean is you will be studying the exact same thing from both the institutes. You'll be studying the exact same thing. So it does not matter if you give a paper from IAI or IFOA. तुम लोग exact same books से पढ़ रहे होंगे. Of course, the final exam is going to be different. Like as we discussed, IAI का paper tends to be harder, IFOA का paper tends to be easier, but the syllabus that you'll be studying from, that is going to be the same. Okay, that's one important similarity. And second important similarity is that both institutes conduct exam twice a year. There will be 2 attempts in a year. So typically one takes place around April, whereas the other takes place around September. Okay. So what this means is, let's say if you register from IFOA, you can give an exam in April, and then you can also give an exam in September. Now one apparent restriction, I'll say, one apparent restriction is that in an attempt, at most you can give 3 papers. At most तुम लोग 3 पेपर दे सकते हो. So in one attempt, maximum 3 papers can be given together. So you can't give 4 or 5 maximum. Now this might seem like a restriction at first, but it's not really a restriction, because I do not know a single person, and I'm not exaggerating, I do not know one single person who has given 3 papers. Like if somebody else knows, please introduce him or her to me, because I do not know any such person जिसने एक ही attempt में 3 पेपर दिए and clear किए. So typically, majority of the students tend to give 1 paper in an attempt, and sometimes they give 2, majorly 1, sometimes 2. And जब भी 2 पेपर भी देते हैं ना, so they tend to pick the second paper as slightly easier one. So one is harder, but the other is easier, so that sort of balances the attempt. Okay. So even though this seems like a restriction, it's not. You'll be giving 1 or max 2. And since you guys are freshers, तुम लोग को तो मैं strong recommendation दूंगा, पहला पेपर दे रहे हो, एक ही दो. Get a sense of how things flow and get a sense of how you're able to go ahead with it. Cool. So that was, I guess, the 2 important similarities: the syllabus and 2 attempts in a year. So I think I'll just. Do you guys have any questions over here? with regards to the two institutes? In case you have, I'll be happy to clear them before I move on. कोई भी सवाल है पूछो, टेंशन मत लो. Tanisha had said this is surprising. It is. It definitely is the maximum limit of 3 papers, but not really a restriction. Namas is asking what should we attempt first, CS1 or CM1? Okay, so good question, Naman. This is something that we get quite often actually. So first of all, there is no hard answer here. First thing that I like to highlight is there is no sort of correct answer here. Both are entry level papers, so you can give either one of them. But typically CS1 is more mathematical, slightly more heavier when it comes to the math part, whereas CM1 is less mathematical, and that is why majority of the students prefer to go ahead with CM1 first. CS1 में थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा लोगों को प्रॉब्लम होता है because it's slightly too mathematical. CM1 is relatively easier for many people, so they tend to go ahead with CM1. The only exception is people who have, let's say, already done a bachelor's in statistics. If they have done a BSc in statistics, or people like them, CS1 would be a decent choice because CS1 deals with statistics. I think. Does that?
One more highlight of CS1 is that it involves some bit of programming in R as well. So in case you have some programming background, it helps. Otherwise, you have to start from scratch. So CS1 is more technical. CM1 is more manageable. It has more finance and more of that sort of stuff, which is easier to digest. And I assume we are addressing the BCom crowd. Majority of you would be from commerce backgrounds. So CM1 would be easier to digest at start.
Correct. And I will be getting into the specifics of each paper after this. So if you want more details as to what each papers include, just wait for 2 minutes. But I think we have answered your question, right, Naman? I would like to see a yes or a no so that I get some feedback. We already have one other question. Should we appear both from IFO and II to increase our chances of passing? So a little bit of history, I guess, for you. Before 2019, prior to 2019, there was a mutual recognition agreement between the two institutes. So what that means is if you clear one paper from IINA, you can claim an exemption for it from IFO, and vice versa also. IFO is a clear क्या paper, so II will give you an exemption for it. So in those circumstances, it made sense to give from both the institutes. Because if you clear from one, you can claim an exemption for the other. So that would increase the chances of passing. दोनों जगह से दे देते, एक जगह से फेल हो चलेगा, एक ही से पास होना. But after 2019, this exemptions they have been stopped. So there are no longer mutual exemptions for both the institutes. So now it does not really make sense to go down that route of giving papers from both the institutes. That is just going to add more stress without any additional benefit. So what students tend to do now is stick to only one institute. And as the data suggests, that is more likely to be IFO. Okay, Nikita? Again, I would like to see some yes, no. नमन का भी अभी तक कुछ yes, no नहीं आया है. निकिता का भी कुछ yes, no नहीं आया है. There is some lag in my computer. I don't know. Okay, so I think I have answered Nikita ka query. So I guess we'll move ahead. Yes, Naman got it. Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's move ahead. So what I covered just now was the difference between the What I covered just now was the difference between the two institutes. Now we'll get into the actual papers. So, quick question. Do you know how many papers there are in actual science? Fairly basic one, but still, do you know how many papers there are in actual science? I'm not sure we have a poll for this. Do we?
No, I don't.
No, sir.
Nahi? Okay, so that's fine. You can just reply in the chat box also if you want. So, कितने papers actual science में? बोलो. Take a guess. I'll give you a hint. It's somewhere in the range of 10 to, I guess, 16. The reason I'm asking this is because I've seen people quote figures throughout this range. मैं ऐसे लोगों को जानता हूँ जिनको लगता है 10 पेपर है. मैं ऐसे लोगों को भी जानता हूँ जिनको लगता है 16 पेपर है. So I want to know what you guys think. We have one answer from Shruti, 16. Okay. Let's get some more responses. Yashvi is undercutting, 13. Neha back to 16. Okay, 14. Navan. Okay. Running average निकालते इसका. Seems to be closer to 15, 16. Okay. So cool. I guess I'll wait for 1-2 more responses. Anuraj, Dhruvi again back to 16. Okay. So we have got several responses. I think. Okay, so I'll just reveal the correct answer. The people who got it right were Yashvi and Anuraj and Tejesh. So the answer is actually 13, and I think they are definitely in the minority here because काफी लोग ने 15, 16 तक आंसर दिया है. So again, maybe that was surprising for you guys. 13 पेपर ही है, ज्यादा टेंशन मत लो. 15-16 तुम लोगों को नहीं देने, 13 ही देने हैं, बट 13 को करने में टाइम लग जाएगा. Okay, so there are 13 papers in all, and they are actually divided into 4 categories. These 13 actual papers are divided in 4 categories. So a lot of terminology is going to come now. We have the core principles. We have the core practices. Then we have the specialist principles. And finally, we have specialist advanced. Okay. 13 paper में से 7 are over here, 3 are over here, 2 are over here, and 1 is over here. I know, Kafi, I've given you a lot of terms, a lot of names. Don't worry, you don't really have to remember all of this. Bhul jao. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that there are 4 categories. Total 4 categories hai, and even in those 4 categories, our prime focus is going to be on the first one. So our focus is going to be on this first category and not really on these remaining 3. Why? Because I think as Akash sir also said earlier, ये पहली कैटेगरी करने को ही तुम लोग को अराउंड 3 to 4 years लग जाएंगे. Basically, it will take around 3 or probably 4 years to get done with this first category. So what happens is students, while they are in college, they get done with this first one. So during college, तुम लोग का around ये पहला category होगा. And so it is only after college, after you graduate, will you move on to the remaining 3 categories. So only after, I guess, graduation, you move in here. And again, as Akash sir pointed earlier, after graduation, तुम लोग वैसे बैठे नहीं रहोगे, you will start working also. And so these are papers that are typically given with work. Okay, with work. So I think it's pretty obvious to see that the last 3 categories come quite later into the journey, and so that is why we aren't going to be focusing too much on them. पहली category को समझ लेते हैं. Okay. Cool. So the first category, as I have already mentioned, it's called core principles, and it has 7 papers. Excuse my beautiful handwriting there. So 7 paper है, ठीक है? Now this thing is divided further into 3 categories. There are further 3 subcategories here. Again, I know the graph is getting more and more complex, but bear with me. So we have core mathematics, which is what we call CM, M for mathematics. Then we have core statistics, CS, and we have core business, CB. CM, CS, and CB. Okay. Now keep in mind, honestly, this is something that you should remember. इसका जो पहले का क्लासिफिकेशन था ये याद नहीं रहेगा तो चलेगा क्योंकि ये काफी लोगों को नहीं याद रहता है. That's fine totally. But this is something that you should ideally keep in your head. इतना तो दिमाग में रख ही सकते हो because this is what you'll be giving while you're in college. ठीक है. So CM में we have 2 papers. CM has 2 papers in it, so that is CM1 and CM2. CS also has 2 papers in it. That's CS1 and CS2. 2 papers of CM, 2 papers of CS, and finally 3 papers of CB. So CB1, CB2, and CB3. Clearly, tally हो रहा है ना? 7 paper है, 2, 2, and 3. That's the division. Okay. So I think I'll just give you a very, very brief overview of what's included in each paper. And I am going to be very brief because I think I've already overloaded you guys with information. So let's try and be brief over here. एक line में सारे पेपर समझ लेते हैं. Okay. So all right. Now CM1 deals with life insurance. This thing deals with life insurance. Now many of you might be thinking, अरे यार shit, life insurance, how boring. क्या मतलब यार, पहला ही पेपर इतना boring. So I'll just clarify, this is not the theory behind life insurance, but it's the mathematics behind life insurance. It's not a theory paper, it's a very mathematical paper. And the mathematics can get deliciously complex. They will be dealing with several super duper long equations over here. Okay? So this is more like the math behind life insurance. That's CM1. CM2 deals with quantitative finance. Now this is what majority of my students consider to be very hot and very jazzy. And in many ways it is. In many ways it is very fancy. My point is, CM1 is also quite hot and quite jazzy in its own ways. Cool. As Pratham said in the beginning, I actually teach CM2. So this is the paper that I teach. So yeah, fatafat initial papers khatam karo so that you can actually come to me. Okay. So that is CM1 and CM2 for you guys. We also have CS1 and CS2. Now CS1 is a purely statistics ka paper. You will purely be studying statistics. And again, majority of you guys here, you will be thinking, अरे यार वापस एक initial paper boring statistics पढ़ना है. Statistics मतलब क्या mean median mode पढ़ेंगे, binomial distribution पढ़ेंगे. So that couldn't be farther from the truth. That myth will be totally debunked in the first chapter itself. Like in the very first chapter, they I think end up introducing around 20 distributions. Binomial distribution is just one of them. You will be learning close to 20 more distributions in the very first chapter. So yeah, this paper is going to take your statistical knowledge to a whole new level. And that is why I actually like this paper a lot. काफी सीखने को मिलता है. Okay, that's CS1. And finally, we have CS2, which deals with general insurance. Again, there's not a theory behind it, it's the math behind it. Alright, so those were the CM and the CS papers for you, CM1, CM2, CS1, CS2. CB papers are considered to be relatively easier, so I'll not be going into the details of them. I'll just give you the names. They are considered to be typically easier. थोड़ा इतना मेहनत नहीं करना पड़ता उनमें. CB1 deals with economics. CB2 deals with corporate finance, and CB3 is not really a paper as such, but it's more like a project or an assignment that you do in college. So that's actually one free paper for you guys. ये सबका हो जाता है बहुत आसानी से. Okay, so that's the brief overview of all the papers here. Cool. Now I'll just close off by saying one important point. Just CB papers are not, they are theory papers. CB papers are actually theory papers. So when I say theory, what I'm trying to say is that there is no software component to it. There is no software involved here. On the other hand, CM and CS papers do have a software component in them. You will be learning some software skills also. So CM may, that software is Microsoft Excel, and CS may, that software is R programming. So you will be learning these skills also in the CM and CS papers, and they are beautiful. They will give you a very real sense of how things work in practice. Definitely a big plus. Okay, so I think that was it. The division of core principles. Any queries? Again, I'll just open it up to you guys for a moment. कोई भी doubt है तो पूछो. And I think Naman's question has a lot of relevance over here, that CM1 पहले देना चाहिए कि CS1 पहले देना चाहिए. So typically students tend to go ahead with CM1 because it's relatively less mathematical than CS1. पूछ लो कुछ भी दिमाग में आ रहा है तो. Okay, chalo, great. So I think we'll move ahead. That was a brief overview of the papers. Lovely. I think we'll move ahead. Okay, so before I move ahead, I'll just ask one quick question. Let's see where you guys lie. So, as you remember, two institutes are IA and IFOA. So, take a guess. How many people do you think have cleared all the papers? And you can, let's say, probably combine all the figures from both the institutes. The total number of actuaries kitne hai from IA and from IFOA combined. Take a guess. Again, I don't think इसका हमने एक poll बनाया हुआ है, so maybe we can just have some answers in the chat box. But how many people do you think have cleared the entire course worldwide? Take a guess. Let's see what we end up getting here. Okay, so, and it's okay to be thoda off because it's a very broad number. So Nikita has already said 1 million. Fair enough. So let's see some more figures. कितने होंगे? It's okay to be off by a larger number. Okay, Aditya and Aman are giving fairly specific figures. 5,600. क्या बात है? 5,500. Definitely some people have read on this. Tanvi is 4,300. Figure कम ही होते जा रहा है. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So I think I am getting a sense of where you guys think the figure lies. So I think you lowballed it way too much. Like 5,500 on a global level is a very small figure. So I'll give you the correct figures now. So these are the membership statistics of IFOA. Okay, this is IFOA का membership statistics. I'll also look at II on the next slide. So you don't really have to focus on all the figures here. Just two key figures to keep in mind. First of all is this figure, the total number of members. So that's close to 32,000. Okay, and उसमें से about I guess 15,000-16,000 are student members. So student members means they are not yet completely qualified, who actually बने नहीं है, they're still students still studying. So about 32K is the total, about 16K is the students, so remaining 16K are about fellows here. When I say fellow, I mean totally qualified. So that's the correct figure. Seems like तुमने ज़्यादा ही low ball कर दिया and निकिता ने ज़्यादा ही high ball कर दिया. But that's the correct figure. Okay. So what I'm trying to get to at here is that even though actuarial science in the recent years has become slightly more famous, but it's still a pretty niche field. Like 16,000 fellows at a global level is a very low figure. Like take a guess, मतलब इससे ज़्यादा लोग तो एक अटेम्प्ट में CPT देते हैं. मतलब this is definitely a very low figure at a global level, and that definitely works to your advantage because firstly, that implies much less competition in the field. You'll have to compete with a much smaller crowd. And secondly, that also has huge advantages in the job market because supply ही इतना कम है, so automatically the price goes up. Basic economics, right? Since the supply of actuaries is not that huge, automatically the market puts a premium on the price. तुम लोग को अच्छा salary मिलेगा because तुम में से काफी कम लोग होने वाले. Okay, so those were the basic statistics of IFOA. One more thing to note here is that there are a decent chunk of people who have become fellows from IFOA. So out of the total of 32,000 members, almost 50% are fellows. That's a decent, I guess, conversion rate if you want to put it like that. Okay, almost 50% are in fact fellows. That is definitely not the case when it comes to IIA statistics. So again, you don't really have to look at all the figures here. You can focus on, I guess, this figure and this figure. So this is the student membership of IFOA. कितने students हैं in 2021, and this is the number of fellows from IIA. As you can see, the fellow number has not even crossed 500 yet. That is like literally way too less. So IIA का membership तो और भी कम है. And one more sort of important thing to note here is the conversion rate. Like out of about 9,000 people, only about 500 have become fellows. So that's around 5%. So this, I guess, ties into the earlier point that IIA के papers थोड़े tough है, and that you can clearly see in the data here कि fellow बनना थोड़ा मुश्किल है IIA से. Okay, cool. So those were some, I guess, curious membership statistics to give you a sense of how many people are there in the boat with you, in the journey with you. Okay, so I guess I can give it back to Akash sir now.
Dhruv, if you could only share the final slide so we can just.
Yes.
So a broad idea about us as FinStat. So we have been here since training actuarial students predominantly out of Mumbai. We have trained more than 3,000 students. There have been more than 13 toppers that have come across, and as Dhruv had highlighted, overall more than 60% as a success ratio. Okay, all these subject toppers were out of the II exams. So because II along with giving the pass marks also gives the details of who has been a subject topper. So we have been in this training since the last 10 years. We are the only institute where you have basically a dedicated faculty for every subject. So as Dhruv takes up CM2, there is a dedicated faculty for CM1, Nachiket takes it. So every subject is by a individual who's dedicated to that. So he brings about a great flair, great flavor of that particular subject. And I think Dhruv's oratory skills have been highlighted in the current session already. Yeah. Dhruv, we can go ahead.
Yes, sir.
In case any one of you want to connect, because we are right now in a digital era as such, so you can get in touch with us. These are our contact details, which is basically the contact details and our website. In case you have any questions, anything which you feel that you want to ask, feel free to call up. We'll be more than happy to answer them. या ऐसा भी होगा, सेलेक्ट से घर पे गए, मॉम से बात किया, फैमिली से बात किया, फ्रेंड से किया, अरे ये क्वेश्चन तो भूल गए थे, ये पूछना रह गया. Feel free, give us a call. We'll be more than happy. There'll be someone. We have a dedicated counselor who helps you through the entire decision-making process, and we'll help you through with all the respective stuff with respect to II, IFOA, registration, any of the details that are there. Great. I think thanks a lot for being such a patient audience. In case you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to take the questions.
All right, sir. So now I request all the participants, if they have any questions, they can drop their questions in the chat box so that speakers can just take up. We'll just give participants 2 minutes, or they can collect their thoughts and post their questions in the chat box.
Definitely. Don't hold back. हाँ, मतलब अगर ऐसा लग रहा है stupid question भी है तो पूछो, चलेगा. That is what we are here for. Shruti has asked, I guess I'll take that one. Do software exams and theory exams have the same relevance? Okay, so that's a lovely question. Basically, Shruti is asking what's the breakup when it comes to the software exams and theory exams. So, theory exams have a 70% weight, and the 30% remaining weight is the software exams weight. For example, if you give CM1, you'll actually be giving 2 papers in that. CM1 में तुम लोग 100 मार्क के 2 पेपर दे रहे होगे. One will be a theory paper and the other will be an Excel paper. And your final score will be a weighted average of these 2 marks. दोनों papers का weighted average आएगा 70% weight to the theory paper and the remaining 30% weight to the Excel paper. So that is the relative breakup. So as you can see, theory is still more important. Excel is 30%. Okay,
All right,
Shruti
sir.
is again.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that clarifies your doubt, Shruti. 70-30 is the breakup.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. So with that, we are ending the session. So thank you, sir, for such an informative and value-based webinar and clearing all our doubts. We had an enriching experience. We are really thankful to you for sharing such an amazing insights with us. We are sure that takings from this webinar will hold our audience in good stead for years to come. Thank you to all our attendees for having joined us today and showing us support even in these trying times. We look forward to seeing you all in all our future events. You can now leave the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
such a patient audience. Bye, everyone.